Welcome back, everyone, to the Paige Kornblue Show. Most people spend their lives becoming one thing. Well, my guest today has reinvented himself over and over again. Business executive, CEO, professional sports owner, public servant, national security leader, now an author. And what's fascinating isn't simply what he's accomplished, it's how each chapter prepared him for the next. Over the course of more than 30 years, Tom Markert has held senior leadership roles with global companies including Procter Gamble, Citi, Nielsen, Ipsos, and Office Depot. He helped turn around the Sydney Kings professional basketball franchise from bankruptcy to back-to-back championships, and now serves as a Delray Beach City Commissioner, Deputy Vice Mayor. He leads InfraGard National Members Alliance. That's an FBI-affiliated nonprofit dedicated to protecting America's critical infrastructure, and recently added thriller novelist to his resume with the release of Death Watch. Tom has published 4 books to his name, including You Can't Win a Fight with Your Boss and 55 Other Rules for Career Success, You Can't Win a Fight with Your Client, and 40 Other Rules for Providing Great Service, and 101 Rules for Career Success. So today we're talking about leadership, reinvention, public service, writing, and what happens when you keep beginning again and leading again and creating again. Tom, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm really thrilled to be here. This is going to be fun.
So much fun. It's so good to be able to sit down with you. I've heard a lot about you throughout our communities, but now another book. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. The book, books are for me fun to write, and this one was really special, and it's doing really well early on. So I'm very happy.
And we're going to jump into Death Watch in just a moment, but you have reinvented yourself more than once. Looking back, have you always been comfortable with that change? Is reinvention something you've had to learn, or is it just kind of come step by step?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I grew up in Syracuse, New York, so up in snow country, and went to school up there and went to school on a basketball scholarship, and that was the only way I was going to school. So that turned out to be a really good thing, and learned a lot from my 4 years at St. Lawrence University playing basketball. And I've been very comfortable with making changes throughout my whole life, really since then. I've worked for some great companies. I have had the opportunity to work internationally. Worked overseas quite a bit. Never in the world did I ever think I'd be working in Vietnam or China or Japan. But I had opportunities to work in all of those markets and others, and I like the diversity.
Which version of Tom Markert feels most you, most comfortable with through all the years as you look back?
Well, I would say the most comfortable I was on the basketball court playing basketball, between 18 and 22 and getting to play at the collegiate level and play in the NCAA and in the tournaments every year. Hard as a sports fan to not look back and say that was a pretty special time in my life, and it was.
Was that always your number one sport?
Yeah, I did 3 sports. I was a soccer player, not very good. I was a very good basketball player, and I was a very good baseball player. And I was inducted into my Hall of Fame a couple of years ago in my high school Hall of Fame for baseball and for basketball. So that was all right.
What was it about the game of basketball that you loved and probably still do today?
I loved the competition. I loved picking apart defenses, finding holes in defenses where you could get your way to the basket or find that open shot. I just love that. And I was always a very defensive-minded player as well. I love stopping people. And I would, fairly big as a player. And I love defense. The coaches always like that because most players don't really like defense, but I liked it.
And my goodness, how much sports relates to the rest of our lives and in the workplace.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. The lessons you learn in sports always relate to what you do in business and what you do in life. They really do.
Teamwork and dealing with all kinds, right?
Well, and the word team always resonates with me, because it has a meaning for me. Team is together, everyone achieves more. And that's been a life lesson for me. I believe in that.
Was there someone who influenced you in childhood, or perhaps a coach who you would always, tell others about, or you just keep in your heart and your mind?
Without a doubt, my high school coach, who sadly passed away a few years ago, but he was a very big driver in my life. Um, just kind of an interesting story. So my senior year in high school, I had 35 college basketball offers. And as I mentioned, I played soccer in the fall. And in my senior year, I was playing in a soccer game. I broke my leg.
Mm.
And as soon as you break your leg, all 35 of your scholarship offers immediately go away because they don't want to take a chance on spending a lot of money on an injured player. And my high school coach came back to my parents and said, "What we're going to do," he didn't say, "Well, you can choose." He said, "This is what we're going to do. He's going to spend another year in high school so that he can earn those scholarships back." And so that's what we did. I went back to high school for a PG year, if you will. But I got all my scholarship offers back, and that was pretty important to me.
Do you remember the emotions of all that, and allowing that pause, needing that pause, and being able to put it all together like that?
Yeah, well, it was a really bad injury. I mean, it was a cast from my foot right up to my top of my leg, and it was for 6 months. So it was a bad break, and it was a tough decision to spend another year in high school. I mean, I liked high school, and I liked it all, but the kids that were a year below me were a year below me, but it all worked out just fine. They accepted me, and it turned out to be a great decision. I didn't really have much choice. My coach decided it for me, but as usual, he was spot on.
Good thing. Did you always think business would be your path?
Not at all. When I was in college, I was an English literature major, and always thought my path in life would be to be a professor and a coach. That was what I really believed I was going to be doing. And my senior year at St. Lawrence, we had a lot of big companies come on campus, and I ended up with 5 really big company job offers from companies like Johnson & Johnson, Procter Gamble, Citi Corp, others, and decided to go with Procter Gamble. So gave that a try and fell in love with the business world.
Did you realize then you really wanted to lead people, or is that something that came in time?
I would say I started learning that in basketball.
Mm.
As you get older, in your age group, usually you're elected team captain, and that comes with some new responsibilities and some new things that you have to do to prove to the younger players, who you are and what you have to do. And so I think I probably started learning that lesson right about there. When you start out in the business world, you typically don't have a lot of people that report to you. I mean, I was a sales rep for Procter Gamble, so I made $16,800 and was given a Ford Granada, not a kid car.
But at least you got the car, right?
Yeah, and you did, but your job was to go out and sell Tide detergent, Cascade, Dawn to retailers, and so you were on your own, driving around, selling those things. So when you first start out, you're at the bottom, and you usually don't have direct reports. So that comes in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my first contract in TV news was 20,000, 21. Didn't get the car, though.
You didn't get the Granada?
No, I didn't get the Granada. But I had a videographer who would drive a vehicle around.
Oh, so you looked cool.
I did.
You looked cooler than me.
I had a teammate.
Oh,
yeah.
Maybe you did better than me. Darn it.
And I thought, oh, wow. It's good to know.
I love that.
That's great. What would be a leadership lesson that perhaps has stuck with you, that whether it was something early on or learned a little bit later?
Yeah. Well, I would say, the title of my first book, You Can't Win a Fight with Your Boss.
Mm-hmm.
There was a real lesson there that I learned at Nielsen. We had a real up and coming employee. Didn't work for me, but was kind of one of my peers, or one of my same level, same job kind of thing. I guess that's a peer. And she was coming along really, really well, and she made a mistake along the way. And I remember I was out in the hall with my boss, who was her boss, and her, and literally she got into a fight in the hallway with him, and it was out in the open. And it was a fight, and she believed what she did was wrong. He believed what she did was completely not wrong, not right. But she engaged him out in the open, and it became a real thing. And she ended up losing her job because of that. And the lesson for me was, okay, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong in business. That's a fact of life. But you don't tangle with your boss out in the open, and you don't get ugly with your boss out in the open. You shouldn't get ugly with your boss anyways. You should maintain decorum. And she didn't do it. And in that moment, and it's always stuck with me, she threw her career away. She threw a very, very, very promising career away over something where when you look back at what it was all about, it wasn't that serious. It just was. It wasn't trivial, but it wasn't bad. And she tossed her career away.
Caught up in that moment.
Yeah.
Handled it.
If she just did step back and taken a breath, she would have been fine.
And then a little bit later, you said you can't win a fight with your client.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And, when I was at Nielsen, and Nielsen, for those that don't know, has two businesses. The one that everybody knows about is the television ratings business. And, that's where companies rely on Nielsen to provide a measurement of how many people are watching television at a given time. And that score then determines how much a network or a streamer can charge for a 30-second television commercial. So it's a very, very important business. That's half their business. The other side of the business is a big market research business that nobody knows about. But when you go to Publix, or you go to Walgreens, or you go to CVS, or you go to Target, all that stuff goes over the scanner. Nielsen buys that data from every retailer in the world. And that becomes the Bible for companies like Coca-Cola to know how much Coke they sold and how much it was sold for, and where it was sold and how did their promotions work. So those are the two Nielsen businesses, and they're both businesses that rely heavily on client retention. Retention is everything in those businesses. And so at a very early age, when you're there, you learn that is the most important thing. Get to know your clients, know what they need, know how you can add value, and set the bar so high they would never think of making a change. And that was where I learned all about customer service. And we had great people, and I never lost a client. In 27 years there, I never lost a client.
Mm. Yeah, I throw my arms up in the air and realizing how many things happen when we don't even think about it, right?
No.
And realize it. And you just got into the nitty-gritty of so much of that.
Oh, yeah.
In that time.
Yeah. No, but it was, it's fascinating work. I mean, to sit with Coca-Cola executives, and help them figure out how they can sell more Diet Coke in the Atlanta area. Yeah, that's pretty exciting. It's kind of exciting stuff. And these are all MBA people that are, coming out of the best business schools on the planet, and you're sitting there using your data, and you're helping them use it to solve a real life problem. I don't know. I always found it exciting.
What would you say the biggest mistake go-getters, ambitious people make in early on or throughout their careers?
I would say that comes in a few flavors. One thing I would say is, particularly when you're coming up inside big corporations, you need to be known as the guy or the gal that works the hardest. Old-fashioned work hours really count. So people need to know that you're there. You're there, and you're working for them all the time. I would say the second thing, and it's continuing to evolve, is, are you in front of the technological advances that are coming your way? And I would say, even in today's world, we can talk more about later, there's this thing called AI that is everywhere right now. And I can tell you some stories about that. But even at my age, I'm spending so much time on AI because it's affecting writing books. It's affecting investigations for the FBI. So you have to be up to date on any new tech changes that are coming down, and that'll be a continual evolution. And then I would say the third thing I learned early on: get along with everybody. Get along with everybody. There's no reason. Everybody's a little bit unique and a little bit different, but if you want to succeed inside big corporations, it's important that you get along with everybody and you say thank you a lot, because people help a lot.
Yeah, amen times 3. I love those 3 points.
Yeah.
I always tell the interns I'm working with or guiding, I said, show up. Don't worry about those hours. You can't worry about hours anymore right now.
No.
Not yet. You just keep going. Be there.
No, and somebody
Yeah.
said to me a long time ago, and this is a lesson I've taken from 40 years ago. These are the good old times that we're living in right now. When you get older and you look back, some of the things you're doing today, you're going to look back and say, God, that was fun getting to know that young lady over there, and
Right.
and not so much fun getting to know that guy over there.
Oh,
But
yeah,
but other than
we
that,
won't tell you who that guy is.
yeah. But those are just these are the good old days, and you should treat your business career that way, because you're going to go back to those people in 20 years and you'll still be friends with them, and there's great value in that.
We touched upon some of your thoughts for those starting out, but for those who are 45, 50, 55, beginning again, or wanting to, build something new, a brand new chapter, what would you say?
I think you have to plan for that. I think you do have to have a roadmap for your life. And I think that, you hit on the ages where things start changing, that 45 to 55, depending on where you are in your career. You do have to start planning for that. And, I think you have to ask yourself the hard questions, like, what do I really like to do? And in my case, in my 60s, I've always wanted to make sure that I had time to give back to my community, because life has been great to me. And I along the way, I just didn't have the bandwidth to do some of the things in the community that I would like to do. And now I'm at that stage in my life where I can do that. And, I'm obviously working in the city of Delray as an elected official now. And, I run an FBI company, which I never imagined I would be doing. And now I'm writing. And those are all 3 of those things I really enjoy. So, am I making the kind of money I made before? No,
Right.
but that's okay. I'm giving back, and I'm paying my dues. And I think that's what we should all be doing.
How did you know you were ready to pivot into this space and leave corporate America?
Yeah. Well, corporate America for me was different than many, many, many executives. We talked about Nielsen. I spent 27 years there, and in that 27-year period, we moved 14 times. And I had four kids and a wife, and we moved 14 times. They were little kids, including, we lived in Canada for 4 years and Australia for 4 years, and I was traveling all the time. And because of that experience, when my kids went to college, it was relatively easy for them, because they had gone through these transitions that most kids don't get to go through. And once the kids had successfully kind of completed college and had gotten into their career, things were stable for me. And I thought, yeah, this would be a good time to do some of these other things that I've always wanted to do.
Mm. So, gosh, we have so many different layers to talk about, but
Yeah.
I guess we'll start with Delray. Why Delray Beach? Why does that speak to you in terms of a city commissioner role?
Yeah.
And deputy vice mayor there?
Yeah, well, we've had a house in Delray for about 15 years. We lived out west, but then we moved into Lake Ida in downtown Delray, so I'm a part of the city. And Delray is a pretty good size city in Florida. I mean, we're around 77,000 residents in a 4x4 grid. And I've always loved Delray. When we lived out west, we used to come into the city a lot, and there were always these great events, and there's great restaurants and bars and events and so much to do. So we just love the culture of Delray, and that's what got us there. And that was one of the things I was most interested in running for city commissioner, because we make some really big decisions about the future of the city, and a lot of our decisions are near-term decisions, but many of them are longer-term decisions. And those are hard for politicians to make, but I don't come out of politics. So I look at it the way I did in my CEO role in business. You had to have a 5-year plan, and you had to start thinking about things 5 years ahead of time to be ready for them. And I feel like I've been one of the voices that has done a couple of really great things for Delray. I mean, we have a new water plant that's being built right now, new water treatment plant, and a city's got to have good, clean, pure drinking water. That's mission critical. And ours is meeting all the minimums right now, but we're ready. It's 60 years old. So we're building a new water treatment plant, which will be done in about 2 years, which we're excited about. We own a couple of golf courses. We have one on Atlantic, and that's under renovation right now. That'll be reopening in November. So yeah, these big projects are there. And I'd like to think one of the things I'm bringing to the commission is a longer term mindset to get after these things. Even if it's going to take 5 years, it might take that. It might be another commission that gets something over the line. But I think, have a responsibility as commissioners and the mayor to move things along the continuum. And yeah.
Before we get into some other of the Tom Markert hats, for those listening who do live in Delray Beach, is there a message you wanted to share, kind of an overall thought that you think is important?
Yeah, look, as a city, we're doing absolutely fantastic right now. I mentioned the 2 big projects that are underway. We are doing a great job in our downtown area. Our downtown area and on Atlantic Avenue is to die for. Everybody wants to replicate that, and it's pretty hard to do. We're bringing in great musicians for concerts virtually every week. They're coming in. Our beaches are world class. We just worked on our reefs, which the county helped out a lot with money on that, and so we got the reefs rebuilt, which is really important to the longevity of the beaches and the health of the wildlife that habitate in the waters out there. So we have a lot of great things going on. We still have challenges like every city, but we're very fortunate. We have a great police department. We have a great fire department. Our city is really, really safe. And, our residents right now are generally pretty happy, which is great.
That is good. That's our goal, right?
Yeah. Amen. Amen.
You mentioned completing the FBI Citizens Academy work and the DEA Citizens Academy and this InfraGard National Members Alliance that you're president of.
Yeah.
How do you explain that one in a Cliff Note version of that role? I had to look up what the
You didn't know.
No. Fascinating.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's a fascinating program, and the way my path in will be pretty easy to explain, but my oldest son is and his wife are both supervisory special agents with the Bureau in New York.
Okay.
My son runs a big money laundering unit, and my daughter-in-law is a lawyer, and she does white-collar crime in New York. And when they graduated from the academy 8, 9, 10 years ago now, my son mentioned this organization, InfraGard, that he said is really important to the Bureau and doing great things with the Bureau. And he said, I think you should think about joining. And so I did what you did. I went and Googled it and learned about it. And I applied and got into the program. And basically what the program is, we're in the midst of our 30th anniversary right now. So we've been around for 30 years, which is phenomenal. And when the Bureau started this organization, they had all this non-classified information that they wanted to be able to share to help people get in front of crime and be aware of crime and, find your way out of terrible situations like active shooters and things like that. And they had all this data and they just wanted to be able to share it with the American people. So they created this InfraGard program. And InfraGard is a program anybody can join. It's free. 2 criteria. You have to be a U.S. citizen and you have to pass the most comprehensive background check. It's a 6-month check. And we currently have 45,000 members. And what we do is we share information with them on a daily basis or monthly basis, whatever the case may be, on different types of crime and activity. And it really does work. One of the things that we spent a lot of time on the past couple of years is doing active shooter training, which I don't know if you've ever taken it, but
I haven't taken it. I've reported on stories, on those who are leading those seminars and workshops and training sessions.
Well, I'm going to make you come to one of the next ones.
That would be awesome.
The FBI teaches a great program called Run, Hide, Fight. And that's the order that you want to do things in. If you're ever in one of those situations, run away from the gunshots, hide, which doesn't mean hide under a table. It means hide in a room and barricade the door. Find a way for it to be safe. And then if you have to, as a last resort, how to fight and what you might be able to find around a studio like this, it could be a weapon. And usually there's a fire extinguisher somewhere, and that's a really good weapon. You can hit someone, but better yet, you can just squirt them in the eyes, and that gets them away. So they founded this program, and we work really closely with their Office of the Private Sector. We've got 77 chapters around the United States, and yeah, I came in as a member, and then I ran the South Florida chapter, and then they asked me a few years ago if I'd run the national chapter. And it's a great organization. Love it.
Yeah, so something for families, for parents, for, individuals, just information, safety, all sorts of
And we use technology.
Yeah.
If you're a school teacher, for instance, or a college professor, we might send you information on active shooters, but we're not going to send you like in-depth IT information that you're never going to care about. So we try not to waste anybody's time. So we learn a bit about each of the members, and we learn what they care about and what they're most interested in, and we try to feed them information that kind of fits who they are and what they would be interested in, so that we're not overloading them.
Is there something that with learning all of this, how do you look at the world today? How do you see it, from all of these experiences and a lot of this internal education that you're learning?
Well, I would say that I'm probably more observant than the average person. That's one thing that I've learned, is to be very aware of my surroundings. If I'm in a hotel, or I'm in a restaurant, or I'm in a courtyard, before we started, I was waving at that young lady who was looking at us, and I waved back at her. I think you do learn to be more observant than the average person. And I also know that, the FBI is a fantastic organization, and, they have an 800 number for tips and leads, and those tips and leads are so important. So if you see something, even if you're not sure it's a crime, they want to know.
Yeah.
They want to know, hey, I saw this and it just didn't look right. And they get calls like that. They get thousands of those calls every day. And the old adage that you've seen on TV, if you see something, say something. It really does matter in law enforcement. If you just report it, and like I said, even if it turns out it's nothing, but you felt uncomfortable with it, raise your hand and bring it up to law enforcement for sure.
Every little bit helps.
Sure does.
So no wonder you're so comfortable writing a thriller fiction piece, Death Watch. I mean, all that knowledge, and you're able to put this beauty together. The next thought could get you killed is on the back. Why this book? Why fiction?
Yeah. I've always wanted to write fiction. It's always been in the back of my brain, and it's a genre that I like. And this book, I started thinking about this book more when I was a kid. I saw a movie that was on TV ages ago. I won't tell you the year.
Nah.
And it was about a psychic. And I always was captivated by the movie. It wasn't a big hit or anything like that, but I was captivated with it. And so it's always been in my brain to do that. And I went out to do my research in the community, which I always do. And it was interesting. Almost to the person, nobody believes in psychics. Almost to the person, no one believes in them. However, when you ask those people, do you want to believe in them? They're all like, yeah, I do. So there's something there. So my idea with Death Watch was to create a character that people would instinctively like and have some faith and some trust in, who can catch glimpses of the future. However, it hurts him physically. So he has to be very careful. So there's a limited amount of psychic work that he can do in order to maintain physical health. And that was the premise of the book. So, I just thought it was a really cool topic, and I think it'll make a great movie one day.
Absolutely. So when you see folks, friends of yours, colleagues, or perhaps you're meeting a stranger and you talk about Death Watch, how do you explain it to them?
Yeah, well, in a nutshell, it's the story of a CIA psychic. He's a CIA. I won't ruin the story. He's a CIA psychic. His name is Samson, and he is able to catch glimpses of the future. And with some law enforcement help, he is able to solve a crime that goes up to the White House.
Okay. So some of the words: power, terror, political manipulation.
All of that.
All of that.
All of that.
So
All of that.
Okay. Very good.
And I've been fortunate enough, having been around the bureau and law enforcement a lot. I've seen a lot of things that the average people don't see.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some I can't talk about, but there's lots I can talk about. And there's a bunch of those that are incorporated in the book that I think will be new knowledge for people. And but like I said, it's about this guy named Samson, and he's a very likable psychic who is in grave jeopardy most of the book.
What, from those who have read it, what have been some of the responses and comments you've received?
The biggest one has been, when is the sequel coming? And it's being worked on right now. But it's very interesting. Well, I got to be careful not to reveal too much, but there's a young girl that is a part of this book too, who's a couple of years old. And based on the discussions we've been having, she'll play a very big role in the future books as well. So we may push it forward a few more years. But yeah, everybody would like to see the sequel now, which is great. That's about the best thing you can hear from people is, "We love your book. When's the next one?"
That's it. That's
yeah.
right. What are your tips for those who perhaps are writing or want to write a book and step into your shoes? Are you I write a little every day? Do you set aside big blocks of time? What were some of the tips, tricks, challenges that you faced when you're tackling a book?
Yeah, and I think the learning that I would have, and I was over at one of the high schools not long ago. They asked me to come over and talk about the books, and with all the kids that are in 11th and 12th grade. And my advice for all of them is you have to write in a way that works for you. Some people are night owls, some people are morning people. You got to sort of figure that out. Some people write books based on an outline that they do. I don't use outlines. I just keep it straight in my head and just keep writing. I will say I write in chunks when I have time, 3, 4, 5 hours. I'll sit down and write. And then there may be days that go by. But I don't get discouraged by that. That's, to me, it's just part of it. And if you're going to write a novel, 300 pages or something, it's going to take you a while. You're not going to do that in an hour, and AI is not going to do it for you. So you have to kind of stick with it, and then you got to find some people that are good readers who can maybe read your drafts, and you don't, they might not be your best friends, because you want to get honest feedback. So if you wrote something and it's a stinker, you want somebody to tell you that. Sometimes your friends won't do that. No. So you got to find a group of people, not a big group, 4 or 5 people, to just say, "Can you read these chapters and just tell me what you think?" And be willing to accept the criticism. And then you go back and you change it. I'm working on another book right now. I was doing that this morning. I'd gotten some feedback on some chapters I wrote, and I thought they were brilliant, but the readers said no. So going back and rewriting it.
Yeah. Pause and kind of scratch your head and be like, okay, we'll go this way.
Yeah.
Detour.
Think about it a little bit differently. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must feel so good to have this in your hands once it's complete.
It is. It's a big deal to get it complete. It feels even better when you get distribution, because anybody can publish a book, but to get Amazon to put it in their list, and Barnes and Noble, and all the other, Walmart, it makes you feel good when everybody picks it up. And I got very lucky. The cover came out really good, and it looks like a cover that a Michael Crichton might have, or somebody like that. So when it's on the shelf at Barnes and Noble, like it pops.
That's right. And it's hitting all these thriller bestseller lists and whatnot. Why do you think it is doing so well in its own space?
I think part of it is, there hasn't been anything out there about a psychic in a long time. There really just hasn't been. And the ones that have been out there have been really, really cheesy. That's been my take on them all. And this one's not. This one's believable, and the characters are very likable, and it's good versus evil. Always sells.
Always sells. I do have to ask about when we talked about the professional basketball team, it all makes sense now, being the collegiate athlete that you were. How did life get you to take over a team and help them get back on track?
Yeah, well, as part of my experience with Nielsen, they sent me to Australia to be the CEO of Nielsen Australia, New Zealand. And while living in Australia, we weren't there very long, a few months. This is back when newspapers existed. The Sydney Morning Herald came out, and there was a front page article about the Sydney Kings filing bankruptcy. They literally went bankrupt. And the Australian Basketball League, generally speaking, is considered the second best basketball league in the world behind the United States. Pretty solidly the second one. So the basketball level is really, really good. And I saw that they went bankrupt, and just on a whim, I called the receiver and introduced myself and said I might be interested. And there were a couple of us that were interested, so we got together and we bought the team out of bankruptcy. We only had 2 weeks, which was terrible, to find a coach and put a roster of 12 together, and then go out and be competitive. But we were able to do that. Some things fell our way, and we ended up getting a great coach and really good players. And we played in a great facility over there. The Sydney Kings were kind of like the Lakers or the Celtics of the NBA here. And so we played in a 25,000 seat arena in Sydney. So, we had a big fan base, and we ended up putting the team on, and we ended up winning a couple of championships, and that was all. It was all fun.
What a fun
It should have been
highlight.
the worst investment of my life, but it was not.
It was not. Well, what would you say? Okay, we've hit a lot of topics. What's a takeaway you like to share with those, something for listeners to remember, whether it's a quote or a message or something that Tom Markert always says or says today?
Yeah. I would say a couple things. I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, team. Together, everyone achieves more. Don't lose sight of that. Bring your A game every day. Bring energy. Bring passion. Bring humor if you have it. Humor goes a long way. In the workplace, it matters. It relaxes people and makes people feel good. Go after what you want in life. It's not going to come knock on your door. If you see it and you want it, go get it, and work your way toward it if you have to. If it takes you 4 or 5 years, so what? As long as you get there, that's all that matters.
Day by day.
Amen.
Right? Okay, a couple quick takes before I let you go.
Anything.
Coffee or tea?
I'm a tea drinker.
Tea.
I used to drink coffee, and I had blood pressure issues like everybody who gets older, and so they said, "How about tea?" And I love tea, so tea with honey.
Okay. Morning writer or night owl?
Night owl. Night owl.
Last great book you read?
Death Watch probably was the last one.
Good one.
I've got about 6 new ones sitting on my desk that friends have written, and I have to read and put reviews out for, which is always a good thing. But that was the last one I read. So
that's a good one. Yep, there you go. Okay, is there a leadership book you love?
I mentioned before we started Jack Welch. So I loved his leadership books, from 20 years ago, and they still hold up. Yeah. They still hold up today. And, when he was running GE, man, they were a machine. And I remember seeing him a bunch of times at Radio City Music Hall where he was speaking, and he's just a guy I wanted to be like him. I just wanted to be like him.
Favorite place you've traveled?
Loved everywhere I've traveled. My favorite city on the planet is Bangkok, Thailand. Love Thailand. It's modern. It's old. The beaches are unbelievable. It's a great city. Followed closely by Sydney. I did love Sydney.
Okay, adding those to my list. Biggest risk you've taken?
Probably getting on a path with Nielsen where I was willing to travel for my career and convincing my family. That was a bit of a risk, and I will say the big companies do it in a way that they de-risk it for you, because even at Nielsen, there were less than a handful of people that would do what I did. I mean, moving 14 times with 4 kids is like insane. But if you're willing to do it, they were willing to do the things for you that made it work for you. They would do things like buy your house, rent you a house, when you got to Sydney, give you a car, pay for your kids' education. So they did things to try to make that easy. And the reason that they did that, was they knew that they didn't want to invest that money and have you go over there and fail and, God forbid, leave the company. And while I was in Australia, that happened to a friend of mine who was running Kellogg's over there. He came over as a president as well, and his family was not happy there. And he ended up leaving Kellogg's and moving back to the States. And it was that was how it plays out if they don't take good care of you.
Okay.
So,
well, speaking of your family, one word your family would use to describe you.
Annoying. I think they would all say fun. I like to have a good time with my family and my kids, and my kids are all over the place in terms of what they are today. One teaches second grade inner city Chicago public schools. One is an actress. One is an FBI agent, and one is in the insurance business. So they're all over the place. Which, given all the travel they did as kids and all the places they saw that most Americans don't get to see, I'm not surprised. But all doing well.
And what's on your bucket list? What's to come for Tom Markert?
My biggest interest right now is I've got another book that I'm just about done with, and I've got 4 movie scripts that are done. And what I'm interested in right now is getting the connections I need in Hollywood to get my works seen and explored by people in Hollywood. And that's a hard ask. I mean, Hollywood's a tough place to go, and I feel like I have a lot of connections in life, but I'm still working there. But I'm also not going to give up. I'll find a way in. I always do.
Good for you. I can't wait for that podcast.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to interview then, right?
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in.
Good. So how can people connect with you and find your work?
Well, obviously, you can find me. You can Google me, and there's a website that my team has built, so that you can find out about me, and all my information is online, so you can find me. Won't be hard.
Won't be hard. TomMarkert.com. And I'm going to put those links on my website as well.
Thank
That's
you.
PaigeKornblue.com. I always say Paige with an I and Kornblue with a K. But thanks for sharing your story, a little bit behind the scenes of what you've been creating all of your life, really, and on the court, off the court, in the book, outside of the book, and throughout Delray and our South Florida community. So
yeah, I've been very lucky and very blessed, and I'm very grateful for the life that I've had so far, and I got big plans for the next 20, 25 years.
Well, good stuff. Congrats.
Thank you.
And wherever life takes you, hold tight to the good. I always like to say, I hope you all keep coming back to the Paige Kornblue Show and keep finding ways to walk a little lighter. Until next time, everybody, cheers.